Let's do it. We're gonna stand first. So come on up and have your ball. I'm gonna maximize my Zoom screen, there we go. Have your therapy ball, could be a tennis ball or whatever you got. Now let's just start to roll our foot. I have one of those little rubber super balls that works really good. It's a little bit more intense than a tennis ball because it is smaller, but it doesn't have to be super intense today. So let's just kind of roll front to back and be sure you're getting towards the inner arch of your foot and then also that outside edge. Maybe if there's a spot that feels like it needs a little extra, you could pause there. And then from that vertical roll, let's set our heel down and start to make that kind of wiper motion from the big toe knuckle all the way to the pinky toe knuckle. Back and forth a few more times. Okay. So I'll make sure I didn't have any notes in the Facebook group. Sometimes it's hard to see those comments if they come in. Hey, Jenny. All right, so let's work on our big toe only for a moment. You could do this against a wall or even a yoga block or something else if it doesn't work on the ball. You're going to try to keep your foot on the ball, or excuse me, your foot on the mat, and then your big toe is going to be an extension up against the ball. And it's okay if your second toe is as well. But the idea here is to get the ball of your foot down as your first toe is in as much extension as you can manage. And once you get that big toe into its kind of end range of comfortable extension, press your big toe into the ball. And then imagine that you could lift your big toe up off of that ball. Try again and press down. And then try to lift off. 2 more rounds like that. Pressing down and then trying to pull up. And then go back to your front to back rolling. Just a few more passes like that. Maybe this time you put a little extra pressure down into the ball. I'm having all sorts of troubles here tonight, friends. Okay, let's switch sides. Left foot gets some vertical rolling. As little or as much pressure as you want down on that ball. Looks like I lost somebody in Zoom. I hope they come back. I don't even know who it was. I'm trying to count squares. Might be Laura. Good, then set your heel down and take those lateral swipes across the ball of your foot. And now we're going to pin down our big toe knuckle and wedge that ball underneath our first toe so that we've got a really nice extended position in your great toe. And then press down like you're pushing on a gas pedal, but just with your toe. And then find the effort of drawing your toe away from that ball. It's not going to go anywhere, but just kind of igniting those muscles. Press down. And then a lift off. 2 more rounds like that. Maybe each round you find just a little bit more engagement. as long as it feels good to do that. And then on your next round of rolling, option to put a little more pressure. I really like to get into that inner arch. Sometimes it can be overly sensitive, so there's no need to bring any suffering into this, but sensation's good. And then you can set the ball aside. We're going to be done with that for now. And we'll come back to the feet in a little bit, but let's take our feet about hip wide or so, and then bend your knees a little bit. Take your hands onto your thighs, and you're just going to let your knees circle. So there's probably a little movement here coming into the hips, maybe into the ankles and in the feet. And you can try varying the width of your stance. It might feel better to bring your legs a little closer together for this. And then if you wanted to make it more challenging, you would stand more upright and do it on one leg. No rushing. Make sure you go both ways a few times. This is just exploratory. You can even look at your foot there as you start to make those knee circles. Look at how much your foot has to accommodate, especially if you're standing on one leg. All right, friends. Take a moment just to stand in your mountain pose. Spread out your toes for a moment. See if you can create a little bit of space in between each one, and then just let them relax back down onto your mat and close your eyes for a few breaths. Connect to this idea that we have about that 360-degree cylindrical breath, making equal pressure system all the way around. Just a couple more breaths. Minimal movement in the chest and the shoulders if possible. And then go ahead and take a casual seat. We'll keep our legs out in front of us. And we're going to do a little toe yoga. Doesn't matter which foot you start with. Find a comfortable seat and then split your big toe away from your other four toes and move it back and forth. First into extension and pulling the other toes away from your body, and then pull your big toe away from you and the other four towards you. And then join your first toe and your second toe and continue with those vertical splits from front to back. Add the third toe to the first two and continue. Add the fourth toe. And then on the way back, instead of pulling the toes front to back, we're going to do a transverse split. So let's pull the pinky toe off to the side. So you're splitting the fifth and the fourth toe away from each other. And then the fourth and the fifth toe together, the other three pulling away. Split between the second and the third toes. And then pull the four little toes together away from your biggest toe. And stretch both legs out and just take a peek at your feet for a moment. Notice there might be just a hint more space, maybe not. My skin's a little red just from that manipulation. We're going to stay on this leg, whichever foot you started with, and hold both outside and inside edge of your foot with your hands, and then you're just going to twist your foot. So I like to press the big toe away from me and then pull the pinky toe side towards me, and then vice versa. So maybe not so much ankle movement here. Try to keep it kind of towards the ball of your foot if possible. And then hook your arm underneath that leg. Rock yourself back a little bit, like you're using your arm as a forklift for that leg. And hold your opposite bicep with that underneath hand, and then press on top of your shin with your opposite hand. Ankle rotations. Just like we do with our hips and shoulders, we're going to make a slow and controlled rotation with a little bit of resistance. Trying to max out our range of motion in all of the directions that our ankle can move in the pain-free range of motion. And reverse and take a few more the other direction. And then rest that leg, and we're going to start the toe splits on the other side, starting with front to back. Big toe moving separately away from the little ones. Add in that second toe at some point here. Third toe joins along. Add the fourth toe. And then on the way back, we'll take the sideways splits. Add the second toe, or the second smallest, I should say. And then split down the middle. And then pull your big toe apart from the other four, last one. And then before we do the ankle circles, let's straighten out both legs. Take another peek at your feet, maybe intentionally fanning apart all of your 10 toes, making even more space. And from here, could you keep your big toes pulling back towards you and send the other 4 away from you? And then press your big toes forward and pull the little 4 toes towards you. That one always threatens to give me a cramp. Let's switch. Big toes towards you and switch. Big toes away. 2 more times if you can. If you get a little cramp, just take it easy for a second. You can rub it out. Switch. Last time, switch. And switch. Now let's circle that ankle. Find your forklift hold. Let's try for, 3 or 4, really slow and controlled, adding that drag as if the air just got super heavy around your foot. Other way. And then you'll want your foam roller, or you could use the combination of a block and a ball. I'll show you both ways. We're going to start with the calf. And instead of rolling front to back, we're going to internally and externally rotate our whole leg as we roll across our calf muscles. So if you were using the block, it might look something like this. Block and the ball. So the object itself isn't moving a whole lot, you're just moving your leg around it. I never know how tight my calves are until I start myofascial release, and then I'm always shocked at how wound up they feel. Roll yourself towards that outer calf muscle and then make some small passes front to back on the outside edge of that lower leg. You could even lift your bum here if you wanted to make this a little bit more intense and really press more weight down, but it's also fine just to keep your seat down. And then go towards the middle and make some front to back rocks as much as you like. And then a little internal rotation hitting that medial border of your calf. And then for the final few, you can roll from the back of your knee towards where your Achilles starts. If you want a lot more intensity, you can cross your right leg over your top leg over your bottom leg and rock. I'm keeping mine pretty high here because that's where I'm feeling the most resistance, especially in that outside. Woofda. But it's okay to just keep that other foot down as part of your base foundation. I have one of those foam rollers that's got the teeth on it, so I'm trying to find a better angle here. So pause in that rolling somewhere where you feel a little bit of intensity. So with me, I've got a slight external rotation. Now we're going to snap our foot forward and pull it back. Snap forward and pull back for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then internally rotate. Come onto that inner border and 5 snaps and pulls. And then right in the center. Beautiful. Now, if you've been leaning back onto your hands and wrists, they might need just a little bit of a break. So do what you need to do there, some sort of rotations, or just shake them out. Maybe bring the backs of your hands together and kind of flex your wrists. And then let's switch to that other leg. Starting with the rolling laterally. Inside edge to outside edge. Roll to the outside with or without your seat lifted. Let's make some small passes in a spot that feels like it needs a little attention. Come to the inside. It's not uncommon to feel a sensation in a completely different part of your body. Like right now, I'm feeling something kind of almost up in my rib cage. Come to the middle and roll. And then find your first spot to pin. It doesn't matter whether you're inward, outward, or center. And we're going to do 5 snaps and pulls. And then switch to a different angle. And switch to that final angle. And then you can take some more of those front to back passes, maybe this time a little more range of motion, staying away from bones and just trying to stay in that soft tissue. Good. All right, so we can set the roller aside. And we're going to work our knees just a little bit. So we're going to start with the kneecaps. Legs are going to be out in front and everything around your knees very relaxed. And let's just start with the right side. So bring your index fingers to the sides of your kneecap and try to guide and slide your kneecap to the right and to the left. I know some of you have done this before with me and you weren't fond of it. It kind of tickled or whatever. So if this bothers you, just skip it. You could maybe roll gently the tops of your thighs if you wanted to. And vary the position of your index fingers. So kind of work them down towards the bottom edge and then down towards the top or up towards the top. And then you're going to take one finger above and one finger below and try to go that way just a little bit. Instead of side to side, it's more of a front to back push. And this is very small. Probably not a lot of movement there. And then just vary the positions. So maybe you come with the index fingers kind of on a diagonal. And then moving the other diagonal. And then you could kind of make some gentle circles with that kneecap. And then bend your right leg. Come onto the heel here, and your hands can be wherever. Let's try to keep our thigh really stable. So you might even kind of hold your thigh like you did the back of your knee, but we are going to rotate this lower leg bone. So your toes are going to point out to the side, and you're going to feel your tibia rotate outward and then rotate inward. You're going to keep your foot flexed like this and roll onto like the outside edge of your heel and then towards the inside edge of your heel. Hip stays neutral. Let's do 2 more in and out. Final one. And then switch sides. Let's start with the side to side gentle pressing of your patella. And then kind of a front to back. You could use your thumb too. I think if someone else were trying to do this to you, it would tickle. But since you're doing it to yourself, hopefully it's okay. And then just kind of continue to change positions, working at diagonals, switching. And then bend your left leg, set your heel down, pull your toes towards your nose. Try to keep that left hip stationary and just turn outward in the lower leg. And we'll just go back and forth between that inward and the outward. Last 2. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to move on to our TFL. This is the muscle that is on the front side of your hip, kind of where your pocket is. So you don't have to come up like this. I'm just kind of showing you this. There's a couple different ways you could roll on this. You could lay on your back and just use your ball and kind of push down into that area. You could do it in this position, or you can actually lay down on that ball, which is obviously going to be quite a bit more intense. Be sure you're not getting on your pelvis itself, that top rim. So you might have to kind of turn slightly. You could just pin this ball somewhere in that TFL area. You wouldn't even have to roll on it. So I've got it underneath my right TFL, my left hip's a little bit further off the ground, and I've got my left leg kind of in a kickstand, almost like a froggy pose. Optionally, if you're on the stomach down version, you could tuck those toes under and just put a little bit more pressure into that ball as you move it slightly around in that TFL pocket. If you are on the ball, or you can even do this on your roller, if you're facing down, play around with bending your leg and straightening your leg. And then let's switch sides. Either just pressing with your hand on that ball and rolling on that pocket. Remember, it's kind of towards the outside. Feels like a little triangle. Just a few more breaths here. And then let's make our way into a seated position in the 90-90. So you can arrange yourself in a way that makes sense for you as far as the camera. We're going to take the right leg out in front of us in external rotation, bending your knee at 90 degrees, trying to keep that knee headed straight forward from your hip. And then your left leg's going to come off to the side, straight out from your hip, so that you have these square angles at your knees. Now with your left hip in internal rotation, it might already feel a little congested. So if you feel really uncomfortable like that, put your yoga block or a rolled up blanket underneath your right side, underneath your right pelvis. Fingertips can come down just for a little support. And then just press your legs down into the ground, any amount. Sensing the inner left hip awakening and the outer right hip firing up. Pretty low level effort here. And then we'll keep the right leg as part of our foundation. Right hand can stay beside you. And start to open up the left leg off the floor any amount. And then heel toe your left foot closer. Close enough that you can pin that leg against your left arm. So that left thigh is kind of opening. And then just really gently press your leg into your arm and resist back with your arm. And then let your left leg drape inward and start to turn your torso towards the right. Reach your left arm across your body. Untwist. Open up that left hip. A little bit of isometric adduction as we press and hug into our arm. And then continue to let it lower towards the earth as you reach your left arm across you and twist any amount. One more set like that. And then reset that initial position, that kind of pinwheel shape. So you need to move your left knee back a little bit again. Find those square angles. Rock yourself forward slightly over that front leg. And then keep your left knee heavy and grounded. And see if you could pivot your lower leg bone off of the ground to increase your hip internal rotation. And then lower that inner ankle and try to pull your knee away from the floor. And keep switching back and forth here. Internal rotation. The foot will pivot off. And then that little bit of external rotation as we try to pull the knee away from the floor. 2 more sets. And I should have said, if you're comfortable staying upright, that's good too. It might be harder to get the internal rotation though. Last one. All right, let's set our feet into that bound angle shape, soles of the feet together, knees wide. And you could guide your feet a little closer to you if that feels okay, but don't struggle too much with that. And then actively pull your legs apart as you hold the front of your ankles or lower legs. Spine fairly upright, but no need to fuss too much over that. And then hinge a little bit further forward and take any amount of forward flexion in your spine. And just kind of relax the hip muscles. Let's breathe into the back. Into the sides. Slow things down here. If you wanted to make this position a little bit more like a yin energy, move your heels further outward so that you have a diamond shape. And then you could take your forehead on a yoga block. Or 2 yoga blocks. And we'll have just a short minute here. Soft jaws. Polishing that wave-like breath. Thinking about how when water moves over rocks, it polishes that surface. They get very smooth. Rise up slow, no rush. And then we'll reset the pinwheel shape with those 90-degree angles, now with the right leg in internal rotation. And then that left leg is our forward leg. First, just press down. Open up your right leg a little bit more and pull your heel toe, your foot close enough that you can stamp down with your right foot, and then work that leg in towards your braced arm. Continue to let that right leg drop towards that front leg heel and reach your right arm across for a little upper body twist. 2 more sets like that, just a breath or 2 with that isometric squeeze in as the arm tries to press away. And then slowly travel inward and spin it. Final one. Guide your right leg back so it's exiting Straight out from that hip at 90 degrees. If you need that little hip hinge forward to unload the right hip a little bit, feel free to do that. And then we're going to alternate between trying to pivot the lower leg up as the knee stays heavy. And then anchor through that inner foot and try to pull your leg away from the ground any amount. Let's do a handful of these, take it slow. Right hand on the pelvis, just as a reminder to keep it stable and try to focus just the rotation at the hip, the femur bone. Pelvis might want to go with. So that might mean that your movement gets even smaller. Totally fine. Because if you're feeling it, you're doing it right. Let's do one more. Great. And then have your yoga block. Come back to that position like bound angle pose. Set your yoga block out in front of you. Your hands might need to walk back a little bit, and you're going to put your feet on that block. And then try to bring yourself into mostly upright position. And with your feet on the block, press them together and try to pull your knees wider. Outer hips get a little work, inner thighs, moderate stretch, breathing for 5, 4. Last 2. Beautiful. Let's lay on our right side. You're going to need your block again. Set it about, I don't know, halfway down your mat or maybe slightly further. Your other block or your blanket could go underneath your head. And as you come onto your right side, the left leg can straighten out and the right ankle is going to go on that yoga block. And you're going to try to get your knee to touch the ground. Just take a chill here for a moment. Think of a pretty neutral spine. So there's not a whole lot of dipping down on that right side waist. And then try to keep your upper thigh and the back side of your knee or the outside edge of your knee down on the ground. And can you lift that lower leg and ankle off that yoga block? And then press the foot back down into the block and take your knee up like you're trying to bring it across your body. That's the movement. Let's do a few more. Press down, float the foot. Anchor the foot. Try to raise your knee above the level of that block. Twice more. And we're going to make a similar shape on our back, almost like tree pose. I'm going to give you some choices here. The right leg's going to stay bent. So you could either put that block underneath the outside edge of your right foot and let your leg lay open. You can move the block to the knee for more of a supported position. Or you could just get rid of the block altogether and make that super chill, relaxed tree pose shape with the right leg. Block on the foot, probably the most intense version. Under the thigh or the knee, second most intense. And then the super chill is with no block at all. No need to push or pull here, just let it hang. Now, regardless of which position that you're in, let's try to keep the position of the hip and the knee and the ankle the same on your right leg, but lift the whole structure off of the ground or the block. Start to pull that right knee up towards your right armpit, and then internally rotate your hip and set your foot down on the outside edge of your mat. Let your knee move in, like it's reaching towards your left big toe. And then pull that leg wide apart. Lift it off the ground. Try to keep that heel spiraling up and the knee down, and set it back to that starting position. Relax. Breathe. We've got 2 more of those. The whole leg lifts, trying to maintain that external rotation. Start to pull your knee up towards your right side ribs, and then angle your knee inward. Set your foot down, outward. Stretch your knee towards your big toe. You can do whatever you want with your foot and ankle. Open wide. Lift and rotate outward. Place your foot down and rest. One more time, the whole thing lifts, levitates. Pull it in towards your right armpit, and then weave your knee inward. Set your foot down, outward. Knee travels towards your left big toe. Last time in reverse. And then enjoy some stillness here in this position, your version. Okay, let's reset ourselves. Go ahead and bend both knees. Set your feet on your mat and take a few pelvic rocks, or you could take a few bridge flowing with your breath. Bridges, I should say. So any kind of shifting and shuffling around your pelvis. And then we're going to swap sides. Lay on your left. Situate your left leg, knee about straight out from the hip, and then that yoga block underneath the ankle. Just relax into it for a bit. Make sure your neck is happy. Soft waves, breathing. Minimal effort. Try to conserve a little bit there with our breath. Just remembering that breathing less is actually better than breathing more. And I don't mean taking shallow breaths. I mean just taking slower breaths. Okay, let's make this moderately active. Anchor down through your upper leg bone and try to maximize that external rotation as you peel your lower leg off that yoga block. And then reset it and try to lift your knee inward. Let's do a few more. You know the way. two. Nice, Ellen. And then we're going to meet up in that tree variation of your choice. Block supporting either underneath your ankle, outside edge of the thigh or knee, or off to the side altogether. First, we just chillify this, enjoying some space, some stillness. And then we're going to try to keep knee and ankle at about the same height as we lift the whole leg off the ground, continuing to turn outward with that leg and pull it up towards your armpit. Once you max that out, start to pivot your knee in and set your foot to the outside edge. Reach knee towards your right big toe. Inward rotation. Pull it wide. Float it off. Externally rotate as you find that entry position. And just take a breath or two. Second repetition, lift. Pull in. Slowly inward rotate. Ground your left foot. Pivot inward. Guide it outward. Make it super light, maximizing external rotation. And then reground and soften in. Shoulders and neck nice and soft. No tension there that we don't need. Let's do one more round. Float. Pull in. Inward spiral. And then ground. Crisscross that left knee to the right. Pause for a moment. And then reverse out of that. Once your left leg finds its home base, close your eyes and try to be still for a little bit. Our next stop, you could choose to keep that block kind of where it is, and you might have to adjust its positioning. Bound angle legs, outside edge of the feet on the block, legs can just fan wide. Or you can use your blocks instead to support on the outer hip area. Just let your legs land where they land. Might be tempting to try to find more here. Let's just ease in. Okay, final stop before we take a rest. Set your block off to the side. Bring your feet wide on your mat with your knees bent, and then let your knees rest together. Arms could come out to cactus. You could reach over your head, or they could even tuck underneath you, underneath your low back. Okay, let us make ourselves comfortable for a final position of rest. If you wanted to build yourself some sort of a little nest, you could put maybe a blanket underneath you, you could put your foam roller underneath your legs. It's also fine to just lay on your side here. Fidget and wiggle until it feels just right, that Goldilocks spot. If you're on your back, tuck your shoulders down underneath you a little bit so you have just a touch more space around your neck. Give your glutes a little squeeze and then let them go slack. Let your breath find its way into your backside, through your lumbar curve, traveling through the backside of your rib cage and wrapping all the way around towards the front of your sternum. A real soft expansion here. Maybe there's a small lull, a moment after your exhale ends. Somewhere you can land for a moment or two before you take a new breath. More ease around your neck and shoulders. More weight in your arms and legs. Whole body effortless. A whole body breathing. Take rest. practicing patience. Just keep your body as is for as long as you like. And let your breath move. Perhaps adding in just a little bit more intention to your breath. On the inhale, hear or feel or sense the words I am. On your exhale, relaxed. Inhale, I am. Exhale, content. Inhale, I am. Exhale, rested. Continue creating your own intentions, your own affirmations, your own statements of truth for now. Less thinking and more feeling to create those words. And start to create some awakening, some shifts, some wiggles, fingers, toes, exploring through the hips, through the shoulders, through your spine. And maybe you take a little time to rock in a cannonball or roll in a cannonball, or you could just kind of lay on your side for a little bit. Tuck your knees in nice and close to your body. Use your arms to help you arise to a seat. And close your eyes. Once you settle, hands can remain grounded in your lap, or maybe it feels right to create that mudra of gratitude, of honor, respect. And I'm thankful for you that you were able to make time for this today. Thanks so much for practicing with me and being a part of my community. I sure appreciate you all. Namaste.